Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you follow me, you've probably already heard this story, but if you're new here, I'm going to talk about the things that they don't tell you about becoming an influencer. I'm going to break this video down into 5 parts: an introduction into who I am and how I started making content, quitting my full-time job to become an influencer full-time, going back into my full-time job after being an influencer for 8 months, why I'm trying again, and finally, just any advice that I can give to somebody wanting to create content and become an influencer full-time. So my name is Harold, I'm 27 and living in Melbourne, Australia. I grew up in country South Australia in a place called Port Augusta. I had a pretty standard upbringing growing up in the country. I went to the same Catholic school for my whole schooling, reception all the way through to year 12, and I played a lot of sport. While I was living in Port Augusta, I did my air conditioning apprenticeship, learning how to install air conditioning units, service air conditioning units, refrigeration systems, you get the gist. In 2019, while playing Aussie rules football, I suffered a pretty catastrophic knee injury. I ruptured my ACL, I ruptured my MCL, and I tore my meniscus. And just like that, quit playing all sports forever. During my time in recovery, I downloaded TikTok and spent hours and hours just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And to be honest, it was one of the many things bringing me joy in that time. At that time on TikTok, there were a lot of creators just dancing. It was like a dancing app. So when I was fit enough to start dancing, I had a go at doing it myself. Now, I wasn't doing like choreographed dances. I was just putting on music that I liked, dancing around the house, changing camera angles, and just having fun. And I was actually super lucky to see some success pretty quickly. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I blew up very quickly. I had at least 100,000 followers within a couple of months, 200,000 a couple of months after that, 300,000, 400,000. It just kept going and going and going. And I was having the time of my life. I was loving the attention. And at the same time, I was so grateful that I had my injury because it gave me this opportunity to express myself online and dance and have fun and do whatever I wanted to do. I basically skipped the hard part of having to face my teammates and some of the comments that they would make because I just wasn't playing sport anymore and I was getting new followers every single day, making new friends online and just having, the time of my life. I was creating all of this content and getting all of this growth, all while working a full-time job as a tradie. For context, my niche at the time was basically just dancing, having fun, and doing whatever came to mind. It was never structured. I would listen to a song on my way home from work and I'd think, you know what, I could dance to that song. Why not? Let's do it when we get home. I wasn't really making fashion content. I wasn't making lifestyle content. It was basically just doing whatever I felt like doing at the time. Although it would be dishonest of me to say that that was the only reason why people were coming to my page. At the time, I had a mullet, I had a mustache, it was really trendy, and a lot of people were just tuning in for that reason. So I continued making this content for about 2 years, continued to grow until I met my girlfriend at the time, and then moved from Port Augusta to Adelaide in South Australia. And honestly, one of the best things I could have ever done for myself was leaving my country town. I loved growing up there. However, I just needed more room to grow. And that experience for me, moving to the city, was so fun. Meeting new people, having new experiences. It was so exciting. Along with my growth and moving to the city, I was approached by a talent agency, so a social media talent agency. They wanted to onboard me so I could start creating content for brands and getting paid for it. I started earning enough money from creating content that I had the realization that I honestly think I could do this as a full-time job. So in 2023, I packed up my things in Adelaide. I went on a 6-week holiday to Europe and then moved to Melbourne, Victoria, where I am now. I quit my job as a tradie and went all in on being an influencer full-time. And right from the get-go, I lost my routine. I was getting out of bed at whatever hour I wanted to get out of bed. I had no structure, I had no friends, and I had no money. All of these things created for the perfect downfall in my influencer career. As a tradie, moving to the city, and then pretty much falling into content just because I was having fun with it, to then turning that into a full-time job, I honestly didn't pick up enough resources along the way for me to understand how being an influencer full-time actually works. One thing that influencers won't tell you is that you have to spend money to make money. You can only imagine how much money some of these influencers are spending on a day-to-day basis, going to buy coffee at their favorite cafe, going out for lunch, buying clothes so they can show their followers, you name it. So for me, a guy who has no money, no friends, and no reason to get out of bed in the morning, this was just not gonna work for me. I was still doing brand deals and I was making money here and there, but the one thing that really put the dagger through the heart of the influencer in me was taxes. And I'll be the first person to call myself stupid to not look into this, right? I'll own that. But coming from a job where you get paid the same amount every week, they pay your tax, they pay your super, they don't teach you about taxes in school. I had no idea how taxes worked as an influencer. Basically, the easiest way to put it is you have to pay your own taxes. My relationship with the ATO is good now. Guys, if you're watching this, this is us, okay? Love you guys. Well, what I'm trying to say is me and the ATO, we hashed things out, we got things working, and we're back on track now. But that didn't come free of charge. In the time that I wasn't contributing anything to my tax, I went on a European holiday, I had the time of my life. And the price for not contributing to my tax as I should have was going back into my full-time job. I'll be honest, all of these financial struggles didn't just land at my feet one day. I knew about them, I tried my best to get back to where I needed to be, but I left it for so long that it just got to a point where no part-time job was ever going to get me out of this rut. And let's just quickly mention the fact that I remember when I was a tradie living in Adelaide and I was leading up to moving to a new city to become an influencer full-time, that I was telling all of my friends, yeah, I'm quitting my job as a tradie. I'm so glad that I don't have to crawl through a ceiling anymore or deal with any shitty customers anymore. Yeah, it's going to be sick. I'm going to be self-employed, this, that, whatever. And you could imagine that when things started to turn to shit and I had to put myself back into the workforce, that was something that I was reluctant to do. And honestly, it would have been a big hit to my ego at the time. And I think that was just because of my age at the time. If that happened after my frontal lobe developed, it would have been a completely different story. This period of my life was one of my lowest points by far. You can imagine what all of these big changes in such a short period of time happening to like a 23, 24, 25-year-old, what that would do to someone. I had all the hope in the world that everything was going to work out fine and that things were going to turn out better for me and I was going to create this new life for myself that I could have never imagined. Literally taking 10 steps forward in my life only to then one day feel like I've taken the exact same 10 steps back to be where I started. Honestly, guys, within a couple of months of being back in my full-time job, I started to find happiness again. And it's funny because what brought me that? Having a structure, having a routine, having some money in my pocket, and feeling like I was actually contributing something to society. I've been back working in my trade for the past 3 years. And honestly, putting myself back in the same boots that I was wearing 3 years prior to that, it made me realize why I was creating content in the first place. I was doing it because it was my creative escape from working full-time. And obviously having some financial stability allowed me to enjoy going out with my friends, spending time with my fiance, going on holidays, doing things that I wasn't able to do for honestly 12 months. I remember living in my country town and being at work and hearing a song play and being so eager to go home, have a shower, put on a nice outfit, and have a dance. And I did that day after day after day, and it brought me so much joy. And it literally was the thing that gave me the opportunity to grow a following, create so many new friendships, and then have the opportunity to make money on social media again. And after all of that, you might say to yourself, Harold, why the hell are you wanting to put yourself through that again? And trust me, there were definitely moments where I said the exact same thing to myself. In the thick of it, I was like, that's it. I'm done with being an influencer. I'm done with social media. I don't want to see this shit ever again. But like I said, being back in my routine, having some financial stability, it allowed me to reignite that fire in me to just be creative, have fun, and share it online. I learned everything that I needed to learn the hardest way possible. And I honestly will never make the same mistakes ever again. It was a few months ago where I shared this exact same story on TikTok. And when I did that, it honestly felt like I had lifted the biggest weight off of my shoulders. I had so many supportive people in the comments, so many other influencers saying that they had been through the same thing. And honestly, just admitting the fact that I did fail and that I did everything that I could to get myself out of the hole that I created. That in itself has switched on my creative brain once again. And now that people know this about me, and the fact that I'm sharing more of my work life online and how I'm balancing being a tradie and being an influencer at the same time, it's freeing. I used to only make content dancing and having fun and doing thirst traps and making jokes, not even talking, just text on screen jokes. Now I feel like I'm able to share every aspect of my life online. I've started talking to camera for like the first time ever. I'm sharing a lot more opinions, jokes, and just thoughts that I have throughout the day. That was one thing that used to kill me because I would watch people that were funny or had something to say just create content from their couch every day. And I used to think to myself, like, is it really that easy? Like, why am I having a shower, putting on my nicest clothes, and then setting up the camera in 5 different angles to dance around when I could literally just do this? Hey guys, you know? But if I'm being completely honest, the biggest reason why I have been inspired to start creating content again is because of everything that I've been through. I have a perspective now that not a lot of people have. From what I hear, every kid now wants to become a streamer or an influencer. And that's honestly fine. You should do whatever you want to do. I just wish that at the time of making that decision for myself, there was a video like this that I could have watched. Something that would give me some tips, some tricks, and some things to look out for. I've come from nothing living in the country to then moving to the city. I'm getting married next year. I've made hundreds of new friends. I've been in some really cool circles. I've been to some really cool places. I've worked with some really cool companies, all within the space of 6 years. And I want to continue to do that. I do love my trade. I love helping people. I love solving problems, and I love working hard. Honestly, it would be a massive wasted opportunity for me to not utilize the thing that I worked so hard to grow. I can earn a lot more money from creating content than I ever would as an air conditioning mechanic. And that does kind of suck because that's the main reason why you don't find kids wanting to do apprenticeships anymore. But more importantly, I want to share my knowledge and my perspective on things like this. Things like fashion and travel and just lifestyle in general. There are a million fashion, travel, and lifestyle content creators online. My experience in all 3 of those categories are going to be completely different to theirs. So if I could give advice to anyone wanting to start creating content and potentially become an influencer and earn a living from doing this, the big one is pay your tax. And not only pay your tax, get an accountant that knows what they're talking about and try and get as much of an understanding as you can about the industry and about how it works. Because paying tax is one thing, but making money is another thing. And reinvesting money is another thing. Or if you decide to start a business one day, a good accountant is going to help you avoid making the same mistakes as I did. The second thing is have fun. Find that thing that you love creating content about. The internet is a massive place now, and there is nothing too niche that you can't talk about. If content's something that you want to do, whatever hobby you have, film it. There's always going to be an audience for whatever category of videos you decide to make. You can try forcing content that you think will do well that you don't really want to do, but it's going to show. And even if it doesn't show in your content, you will eventually burn out. And lastly, let go of the idea of being cringe. Like I said, I consider myself lucky to have gotten myself out of those situations where I may have got backlash from people in my community. But honestly, that's not luck. That was a decision that I made. I could have done rehab on my knee. I could have returned to footy, cop shit from my mates, and then quit making TikToks right then and there. But regardless of the fact that I did gain a following pretty quickly, it was because I was having fun. I was enjoying myself, and that allowed me to just post consistently. And you can do the same for yourself. A lot of people stopped fucking with me when I moved to the city and started making TikToks. However, the people that I've met along the way, my new friends, creators, they make up for any friendship that I've lost. You're gonna grow, and if your friends don't wanna grow with you, then you have to leave them behind. Because if you can get past the idea of being cringe, success is on the other side of that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I didn't ramble too much. This YouTube channel is very fresh. I just posted my first ever vlog that I filmed, which was on my last day of work in Adelaide before I became an influencer full-time. I have many other vlogs edited and ready to go. including one where I went to Vietnam and Cambodia with Kentucky on a paid trip. I'm having a lot of fun recording these videos, creating these videos, editing them. This is something that I've always wanted to do, but never pulled the trigger. So please subscribe if you haven't, like this video if you enjoyed it, leave a comment if you so desire, and I'll see you in the next video.